All right, everyone. Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I've got an amazing guest for you guys, Shawn. We're pretty fresh to knowing each other here, but Shawn is starting something really awesome, a podcast on Adaptive Outdoorsman called The Adaptive Outdoorsman. And so Shawn reached out to me. I really like what he's getting started here. We've had some previous people on the podcast as well that have expressed their personal experiences with being an adaptive outdoorsman. And that encompasses so many different things, from amputation to other sorts of issues that either you're born with or you've been unfortunately had to go through certain experiences where you might have lost a limb or things along those lines. So with that being said, Shawn, who are you for the audience, and what do you got going on?
Well, my name is Shawn Jordan. I was born in Indiana with bilateral club feet, heart murmur, and a few other fun physical things, minor ones at best. But so I was born with the fun spark out there, but I had surgery as a kid, as a 1.5, to be able to walk, and relearned how to walk at 2. So I didn't know any better. I didn't get into the outdoors till much later, after I had another surgery at 25 and I think 23. They were triple arthrodesis fusions, basically eliminating the left-right motion of my feet. Doctor said I'd never be able to move my feet. I told him and laughed at both of them, because I had 2 separate guys, and said never could in the first place. So then years passed, and I got inspiration from MeatEater, pretty much. Steve Rinelia's infamous bear story, where he was saying how, the whole, oh, I like that sandwich, how can I get that? And he said, well, have a show of your own, and you can. So that inspired me to do something in the outdoors industry. And a friend of mine, I was going to a gym at a time, which I'm still part of, but she left for North Carolina, but she wanted to get me into adaptive strongman, because I like strongman, picking up heavy stuff. And so then that came up with the idea of adaptive outdoorsman. And I contacted a few individuals who pointed me in the right direction on how to make my podcast. And so January of 2022, I officially launched. It was January 20th, and have been going ever since, steadily. You have hiccups here and there, but you got to work through those. And I went from bi-weekly to weekly over the course of an entire year and a half. And so that's what I've been up to. I'm up to 50 episodes now, and I'm still just trying to get to episode 100 now. And that's a goal for me. I know I've talked to, good Lord, I think it's Dan Matthews of the Nomadic Outdoorsman podcast. I had a conversation with him one time, and we were talking about how like 95% of podcasts can't make it to their 100th episode. And yeah, so that's my goal. Take your time, man. Yeah, I've had issues like that as well.
All right, let's try this again.
Where did you want
So
me
it
to
was
start
recording. It was recording you,
off at? Okay.
but it wasn't recording me. There we go. Okay, now it's recording both of us, I guess. So, so apologize for those technical difficulties there, guys. But what Shawn, was explaining, I think is awesome. Just being able to get that started, as far as the podcast goes, doing them, bi-weekly, and just doing awesome things, man. Spreading that message of how people need to, or I guess how you can overcome these things that maybe you obviously didn't choose to be given in life. And that's always a solid message, because there's plenty of people out there that, even for the smallest things, and especially nowadays, it feels like there's people that really want to sit back and complain about their hardships. And some people are justified in that, in my opinion. I really do feel like there's people that are justified because you didn't choose certain things. There's other people out there that I feel like are less justified because their life choices have put them in certain situations to where maybe they're extremely overweight or whatever, and they have all their hormones are good, everything's good to go. They just choose to put too much in their mouth.
Yeah.
Those I feel like are maybe a little bit unjustified in complaining. And I know some people out there may not agree with me, but I'm a firm believer of choices lead to consequences, and that's just something you got to deal with. That's life.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like yourself, you didn't choose to be born with those disabilities that you had from birth, yet you're choosing to overcome them. So that is something that no matter what the disability is, taking that and running with it is outstanding. That's something that is very admirable, and especially in the outdoors where there's so many people that already just complain about having to hike. I mean, shoot, man. Here at TAC, it was interesting to hear people complaining about having to. They came to Utah TAC and were complaining about hiking in the mountains and how long the hike was to get out and be able to shoot their bow with their buddies. I'm like, I really hope you're not hunting up here because it's going to be awful for you. you know? So,
Make no mistake, if you and I were in the Utah mountains hunting elk, and I would still do it, and I'd be saying my feet are hurting probably a lot, but I would, and all it would take is one word of, "Oh, you're complaining a little bit there, buddy?" Like a little bit of a goading session. I'd be like, "All right, let's do this."
yep, exactly.
And I guarantee you, we get back to camp, I would be sitting down and saying, "Yeah, no, you're going to have to hand me stuff because I'm not getting up till I have to go to the tent, and you will see me limping the rest of the way over
Exactly.
because I am in pain every step I take."
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's something that is, it blows my mind seeing people such as yourself that just, again, you are so driven that you're willing to do those things that people with all of their appendages and no issues in their appendages are complaining about.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how blessed they are when they are healthy and able to do
hmm
things that some other people may not be able to do. And that for me is a big deal. I try and drive that home with my kids. I'm not the best at it, but when they sit there and complain about not getting more screen time or something like that,
hmm
I try and in a nice way say, remember how blessed you are. You can go play, right?
hmm
Like you can go run, you can go climb, you can go do all these things, and you don't have anything other than some maybe seasonal allergies to deal with. Um,
hmm
and that's something that I feel like is definitely taken for granted nowadays. So, talk to me more about, I guess, let's get you started here, and what got you into hunting, especially after, being born with club feet and knowing that would be a hindrance to climbing into a tree stand or getting into any kind of stand or getting out in the woods in general. What got you started into hunting?
Well, I ended up having a shotgun that was given to me for Christmas one year when I was, I think, 11. I passed my hunter's education safety course, which I didn't really think about at the time. I just thought, oh, cool, I just got a shotgun. But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I was married and had a kid at the age of 29 that my father-in-law, my wife and them, he's had diabetes, bad back, he's obese, his body has basically been failing him due to poor habits over the course of the 20, 30 years. And they wanted us to, and he had recently had a fall in the woods at night on a local reservoir nearby, and he ended up hurting his rib and whatnot. And so opening day was coming, and I wanted to bond with my in-law, instead of being adverse or not with him. So I said, okay, I'm going to go hunt with you guys. And so I said, I have a shotgun too. So I cleaned the shotgun. It had been at my mom and stepdad's place in the gun cabinet for at least a decade plus. I cleaned it up, shot it, made sure it was good. And then I took it out opening day, November of 20, God, I forget the date now. But I'm 38 now, and I was 29 then. So it's been about 9 years. And I had prepped and everything, watched some videos on where to shoot, how to properly target. And yep. So that was the day that I had shot my first buck on opening day. And I drew blood, put it on its back. And do you think that they'd be interested in hearing the story of that one?
Go for it.
Okay, so it was opening day, and sun's rising. We get there about 6 o'clock. Everything's locked and loaded. We have this seat that's attached to a tree, not elevated, but just facing a small ravine, where the deer would come through. And I'm seeing the sun coming up in my face, and I'm colder than snot, wearing dark blue and a hoodie and steel-toed boots on. Lovely camo pants that don't block the wind, nothing. And I see some does because I get up. I'm like, okay, those are does. I sit back down. Here comes bounding down to about the same area a buck. And I couldn't tell you how many points he had. And I fire at him. Miss. He runs right behind the tree, and he's probably about 20 yards behind the tree, exactly down a perfect firing range. I reload real fast. It's a 20 gauge rig action shotty, and I reload and I take aim and put him one right in his breadbasket, flip him on his back. And so he's wriggling around, and now as an adult and a seasoned hunter, I know I should have sat down, but I didn't. So I'm hastily trying to reload, cold as ever, shaking. Adrenaline now is officially kicked in. I get it loaded back up, and he gets up and runs around the other side of the tree. So I swing the other side, and I'm trying to be cautious because my father-in-law and my brother-in-law literally down now in his firing area. So I've got to take aim and make certain I'm not hitting anybody. But I think I either hit him or I missed, and then he takes off bounding the way he came. And in my haste, I look and see blood, and I should have just said, okay, sit down then. But no, my brother-in-law comes over to me and says, okay, what happened? And I said, I shot, and he didn't know because he had never successfully harvested anything, so he didn't know what to do either. And so we started tracking blood. My father-in-law come up to me and said, you should have let him rest and whatnot. My first deer, I did not know. So we tracked him for another 2 hours, saw thick amounts of blood, most likely bedded down really close to us and died, and we just didn't know about it. Or somebody saw a dead deer and took it. But I lost my first buck. But that was when I got hooked on hunting. And
No, that's
came back
awesome.
the next year, and then the year after that. Okay, so it was 2014. It was about 2015 is when I did that, and because 2016 my father-in-law bagged a Boone and Crockett.
Wow.
178 and 3/8.
Wow. That is a massive whitetail.
After drying.
Yeah. No, that's a massive whitetail.
Yep. And that was with a shotgun. So he definitely got that in. And yep. So I couldn't be bumped up from that, so I still had to go hunting. And then I finally officially bagged my first buck in 2017, and he was a little tiny 8-pointer. And that was on the same public land, which in a different area with my father's crossbow, which I had learned to hunt. I mean, in Indiana, they have a separate season from archery, but it runs concurrent with it for all 3 months of hunting. And so I took the bundled pack, so I had all 3 seasons to get a deer. And so I had used the crossbow, and it was legal, so I shot, and it was one of those wild shots you didn't think would happen. So he's facing me. I see him first time, this little 1.5-year buck, and he snorts and stomps at me, and I'm like, crap, he's going to get away from me. So I shake aim, and I shoot with the old crossbow of his, and the sound must have alerted him or something, because he turned at the right moment. That bolt hit his, what is that, the plate that's on the side of his shoulder plate?
The scapula. Yep.
Yeah, scapula. And it just slides down the inside of him and misses the intestines and the stomach and everything, but hits every vital blood vessel on the way down to about belt line on him. And he bounds off. He walks off. And we get over to him when we find him about an hour later, and his head is down. That's why I couldn't find him, was his head was down towards his belly. He was trying to pull it out of him, and he ended up losing enough blood that he just passed out. Yeah, I don't even think I hit a single lung that year.
Man, that's rough.
But yeah, no, I didn't even hit a single vital organ either. So, and he died maybe 120 yards from where I shot him.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's crazy, man. So I would like to ask a little bit as far as, because obviously those things, there's a lot that goes into whitetail hunting that I don't know about personally. But what I do want to ask is, when you do go hunting, being, an adaptive outdoorsman, do you mainly focus on ground blinds? Is there a way that you get up into tree blinds at all?
I can do tree blinds, I think, but for my feet, it requires a little more work because I can't move them. And I'm going to use the parallel with a prosthetic leg, in my opinion, because that's about the equivalent of what I can see. I don't have the push from the calf muscle to be able to push myself up a little bit harder. So I got to use more leg muscle to do it. And so I can get up. It just takes me a lot longer, and I'm a lot louder in the woods.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense.
I got my mom and stepdad have about 10 acres, which is in town, so you can only use bow. It's out of town enough that, bow only is thing. So we built the ground blind, and that's the blind I've been using, and it's slightly elevated, but not enough to even really care, but big enough that you and I could sit comfortably and do stuff.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool. 2 full-grown men can stand full height.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So with that being said, I guess to understand a little bit more about what you're dealing with the surgery that you had, you're able to walk. You're not wheelchair bound, correct?
Yeah, I can walk. And
yeah,
it's on the occasion, it's so much pain that I got to grab a cane that I have and lean on that. But if, say, you and I were going hiking in the mountains, scouting and stuff, I would be relying heavily on those walking sticks.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. So,
yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead.
And for me, that's how I would be able to keep up with you as well, because I can't move my feet like everybody. I got to pick them up heavier. I can't push off them as much. So I'm walking a lot slower, or I'm in pain, I'm going way slower and I'm limping, and you're seeing it. Because some people are like, oh, you're moving a lot faster today. It's like, yeah, I'm not in as much pain as I usually am. So I'm not going to be limping or whatnot. But so I would definitely be utilizing walking sticks a lot more.
Gotcha. No, that definitely makes sense. And honestly, I mean, there's so many other hobbies and things that you could have chosen to go through and do, and you've chosen hunting. So again, that just talks about how, for you, it's important to get outside. It's important to go for hunts because, I mean, you were kind of introduced to it at a young age. And I do want to ask you as well, as far as hunting is concerned, with that being your choice of, I guess, pastime, etc., what do you do? What do you do to prepare for it? Do you go out and do you scout? Do you set cameras? How do you go about incorporating that in, even in the off season?
Well, with my family's land, I have one trail camera that's set up nearby. It's a year trail cam. It doesn't go down or whatnot. I just replaced the batteries and hopefully get a cell, not a cell, but it is a cell, but hopefully get a solar panel on it so I don't have to replace the batteries. But I pretty much just make certain the blind doesn't have any wasp nests in it or whatnot. And it's in a backfield area where it's positioned in a staging zone area. So
Okay.
if I need to, usually it's a heavy doe rich area. So the bucks come to them. And so pretty much it's, okay, when is he coming through, and praying to God I get one. Last year I didn't get a buck from him. Last year I didn't get a buck, but the year before I got a buck. Last year I got a doe because I saw opening day 7 doe. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take a doe. Their herd's not going to be feeling it. But the year before I had bagged a gross scoring 141.
Okay.
9-pointer.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a pretty solid buck.
Yeah, double lunged him. He went 20 yards back because literally this field has some woods around it where everything's a staging area pretty much. I mean, he's got cover on the backside and both sides, and he can see right out into that field where he was getting hit. He got hit at. So, and that was on Veterans Day. Yeah. 2021.
Gotcha.
So
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, talking about that, let's move into kind of some stuff that you do in the off season. Now, I've seen, you posted a picture back in 2016 when you were doing a amateur strongman. Have you continued to train since then? Is that something that you do on a regular basis? Do you go on walks? Do you hike? Like, what's something that you do to train for during the off season?
I try to get into the gym. This past year, my lifting buddy, he moved away, so I've been trying to get my wife to go with me. And then life and its all hecticness has kept me out of the gym this year, but I try to make certain that I'm pretty in well-conditioned shape. Cardio is not the funnest for me because impact hurts a lot. So, but I can do like shadow boxing or whatnot and sweating my butt off due to a house that has no AC.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shadow boxing has done a pretty good job for me to keep me in some form of a physical fit shape, because at least you're still moving something. I mean, I'm never going to be able to get muscle on my legs the way I want, but I've got overbuilt thighs to begin with because I can't move my feet and I don't like tripping. So I have to pick my legs up a little bit higher. Backing into stuff sucks because I can't move, so I can't re-counter adjust. So as soon as both heels hit something solid and there's not a solid object behind me, I'm falling like a freaking tree.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I was at work one time and I hit that, and there was a big part with a really sharp point at the edge. My wallet saved my butt, literally.
Yeah. No, I can definitely understand that. Honestly, it's something that, again, a lot of people take for granted, being able to, move your feet and be able to walk in that way. Have you ever, for things where, I guess first question, would you ever, or have you ever come out to mountains like either the Appalachian Mountains out east or the West Coast, or I guess Western U.S. here in the Rockies?
The only time I've went to the Appalachians was when I was with my family. I think this was years ago when I was about 200 pounds lighter. And, a kid, and we went through and we're walking, and I was still having trouble keeping up with people even then. But I didn't start noticing the pain till high school when I was getting heavier and more active. And so for me, I got stress fractures on my shins from the impacts. I have no ability to, take from. There's a doctor I have recently come into contact with, which I still need to get back to about, is he was doing like prosthesis for braces for a guy I met online who has club feet too, but he was doing those for military vets. And it's supposed to take the shock similar to the way a calf muscle actually does. And so, like I said, I need to get back with him on that because that'll be something interesting. Because I asked him, I was like, how are they do in cold weather? And the guy says, yeah, they can handle mountains because this guy runs in mountains. The guy I talked to who's got club feet, he runs in mountains in Nevada. And so I thinking, okay, let's put him to the test in hunting season. And I'd like to specifically put him to the test in a mountain setting or an art and just beat the crap out of him.
Yep. No, that's awesome. That's really cool.
The only problem with disabled individuals and their adaptive equipment. So for me, it would be the braces, it's a track chair or an outrider coyote or terrain hopper or the platform to which you hold your firearm or crossbow to. It's a pay to play. They are not cheap.
No.
And so either you're going with a nonprofit, which is one of the reasons why I interview so many nonprofits, is because they need the recognition so people can actually go to them and talk to them and support them. Or you have to also do grants or pay them out of pocket. I mean, an action track chair or coyotes running you about with a basic model is about $16,000 to $18,000. So the price of a used truck.
Yep.
And there needs to be more of these pieces of equipment. I mean, I literally talked to a lady who hunted with another disabled individual named Chad Williger or with the Outrider Coyotes, and she actually bagged an elk from the coyote. That's a beautiful coyote, too. Not a coyote. Yeah, the coyote's beautiful, and so is the elk that she bagged.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the only problem with disability in the outdoors is it's way more expensive. I mean, we talk about, hunting gear and how expensive it is. Well, add the price tag for an EV, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Those are pretty intense. I've got a buddy that's been looking at between the traction chairs and the track chairs and the coyotes, and they're not cheap. I mean, it's almost like getting an ATV, a used one at that. And that's definitely something that's really important. It's cool that you highlight those nonprofits and allow them to get their voice out so that they can get more recognition. So I guess going back to the Adaptive Outdoorsman, what are some goals that you have with your podcast and with things that you've got going on there so that you can, so we can get out to the audience and see maybe someone listening can help out with some of these goals you've got?
Well, the goal is to get the podcast to be the full-time thing, to be able to promote something that I didn't intentionally start to think about in the beginning, but it's evolved into it, is the healing nature of the outdoors. I mean, I was talking to a guy who started a nonprofit, Hunt to Heal, out of Michigan. His name's his name's Carson Nineheis. And he was in a motorcycle accident and paralyzed from the chest down. His buddy literally picked him up and carried him to a hunting blind just to enjoy nature. And it was the first time somebody ever thanked me for being a representation of a group that doesn't get a whole lot of representation. And I say this, yes, we are looked at, and yes, a lot of people are all inspired by us, but we're puff pieces for media. Look, I've taken this person, we're doing this. It's like, I want to highlight these people every day for what they can do, not take them out and give them something because, well, let's face it, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to highlight something, and I want to bring attention that disability in media is almost non-existent. You can look up podcast after podcast, and there's barely anybody that is solely disabled focused. And if there are, they're either no longer active or I don't know about them. I mean, I literally was looking it up. I constantly look it up to see if there's anybody else. My name is literally the only one that pops up now. And it's, for me, that is a niche in itself. I mean, it's a scary niche. It really is scary to me that I'm literally treading into something that there is little success in.
Yeah,
And
no, for sure. I can definitely, it's something that definitely needs to be highlighted because it's important for everyone to be able to get in the outdoors. And I know I've talked about it before, and it's something that is truly a blessing to be able to have so much public land out here in Utah, and it's a big reason why I stayed, if not the only reason why we stayed in Utah, is due to the public land access.
mm-hmm.
And the fact that you can go out there, and I joke about it, I'm like, well, I mean, I paid for it, with my taxes, but there's something about getting outdoors, no matter where you're at, and it's different in every region of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
When I go back to North Carolina, something that I really, really appreciate is the noisiness of everything that happens at night when you're
Mm-hmm.
out in the woods. You don't get that out here in Utah. Here in Utah, you don't have the cicadas and the bullfrogs and the everything else that's going on at night.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I sit outside in North Carolina at night on a screened-in porch, you get to hear all of those things going on. And then out here in Utah, you get the majestic mountains. You get on a mountaintop and you can look for miles. You can watch a sunrise. You can watch the sunset up there on the mountaintop. You can go in North Carolina. You can go to the beach and enjoy, a sunrise on the East Coast, or you can go to California and enjoy a sunset on the West Coast. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things that nature provides that we get so wrapped up nowadays in things that are on our phones,
Mm-hmm.
trying to, get the likes and the shares and all this other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
rather than putting the phone down and enjoying what we're surrounded by. And it's easy for people that are that have all of their appendages and no disabilities to uh, to lose that. And I can only imagine how much more difficult it will be. It would be for someone without the ability to just get up and go walk outside,
Yeah.
to want to enjoy nature. That you talk about people that get concerned about rolling their ankles while they're out there hiking and things like that. And I just think sometimes, well, there's people that can't even get out of their front door
Mm-hmm.
that would love to have the problem of thinking about rolling their ankles while they're hiking, and it's a whole different mindset that a lot of people don't think about. So I think it's awesome that you've chosen to highlight that, and especially the nonprofits that go along with that. So with that being said, what would you recommend to people that are listening that maybe do have a handicap that's keeping them from getting outside? What would you recommend to them?
I would recommend trying to find a local nonprofit that specifically or, you know, targets near what you do and talk to them. And if you need to, you can go to another state and talk to them. And a lot of these nonprofits that I've talked to, they've had people from 3 states away, 4 states away. I mean, we were talking before the podcast about Disabled Outdoorsman Utah, and Tate Hale, a guy I've had on and I've talked to, he went out to Utah and bagged his first elk, and he's eating elk meat, living like a king with that one, of which I'm really jealous of.
Yep.
But and so I would say start there, because they also have the equipment, or they have the ability to help a person either get a piece of equipment donated to you,
Mm-hmm.
or they can help you get the equipment through grants. And another way of doing that is also applying for grants. So there is definitely a lot of different ways to get there, but if you're stubborn like me and you don't want to actually do it that way, you're going to do it your way.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I love the things that you brought up, and just encouraging people to go and find a local nonprofit. There's I can't name any off the top of my head except for Disabled Outdoorsman Utah, because I know a couple of people involved in that. I know they're a great group of individuals, and I can vouch for them. But I would highly recommend for anyone out there listening, if you have a family member that really wants to get in the outdoors and needs some resources, one, I'd say reach out to Shawn here, because Shawn is going to be able to point you in the right direction. May not know someone in your area, but Shawn will be able to point you in the right direction to get you started there, because we definitely want people to get out as much as possible. And when I say people in general, I'm referring to everyone from kids to adults, to people who are overweight, to people who are suffering from mental illness, people who have disabilities that will keep them physically from being able to go outside. I want everyone to be able to enjoy that healing factor of getting outside and enjoying what nature has to provide, because there are many options out there. You just have to put the effort in to go and look for them, because there are people that really genuinely want to help people that don't have the full faculties of their physical body available to them.
Yeah. I know the NRA has lists of nonprofits for disabilities, but I started it, and I'm slowly working my way through it, but I wanted to do a 50-state initiative, finding at least one nonprofit organization and talking to them in every single state.
That's awesome. That's really
And
awesome.
the logistics for doing Hawaii and Alaska are just going to be so much fun. I mean, I literally already have to do for California, Washington, and Oregon. I literally have to do them on a Friday night at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 9, just for them to be at 6. I mean, 3-hour time difference from Eastern to Pacific is just one of those. And heck, Hawaii, I might as well just be there. So if anybody's willing to fund a Hawaii trip, I will be more than happy.
That's awesome. Well,
Maybe
cool,
do
man.
some
Well, just to kind of wrap things up here a little bit, I just wanted to know, what would you like to leave with people? What would you like them to know about you, about the podcast, or what you can provide to help people continue getting outdoors? Whether it's people that have been born with certain disabilities, or they've had an unfortunate accident where now they're living a different life than what they were used to maybe earlier in life.
Well, I'd say don't give up, for the message of just don't give up. Don't let whatever's affecting you put you down, because God knows I've had that feeling of just it sucks. And just keep moving forward. Drop your shoulder. Just keep marching on. Don't give up. Don't let the negative thoughts get into you. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram at the Adaptive Outdoorsman. Same for Facebook, and I'm currently on Threads and just opened up Twitter. So trying that one as well. I doing like little shorts, started just doing little shorts about the episodes that I do on YouTube. And so slowly getting out there more, out of my own shell, because I've definitely had to deal with it. But you want to contact me by email if anybody wants to come on and talk. privately or on the podcast, you can contact me any of those. And I'd be more than happy to either point you in the right direction, point you to somebody that can help, or get you in contact with them, or do my best with what I've got.
I love it. I'm going to leave all the links down below, guys, so you can find Shawn, the Adaptive Outdoorsman, his podcast, and reach out to him if you guys have any questions, anything that you're wanting to ask Shawn about. So, again, thank you so much for your time today, Shawn. Thank you for coming on. I love what you're doing. Keep growing it. Keep crushing it, man. And like I always say, guys, get out, live your life, and love it.